just for our own safety. We are okay, though. You can see the chemical irritants in the air. We are safe. We're just backing away.
Another tumultuous week in the Twin Cities. Welcome back to another edition of the Enough Said program. My name is Dan Barrero, joined as always by Justin Gard and Lori Fisher to get the whole program started. Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys. That was just Wednesday night. That was Fox 9's Courtney Godfrey on the scene of one of the protests. President Trump is warning he could invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota. That means the president could deploy the military to respond to protests and enforce federal laws here. This comes after a second ICE-related shooting on Wednesday. An agent shot a man in the leg 1 week after a different agent shot and killed Renee Good, both cases in Minneapolis. The Department of Homeland Security says that the agents feared for their lives last week and this week. Governor Walz is asking for President Trump to end the occupation, worried about how intense the situation had become. And right before Wednesday's night shooting, Walz addressed the state of Minnesota to tell everyone to just try to stay out of the fray of everything. Dan?
Well, the difficulty there, threading that needle, is not so easy, because what did he also say? Make sure you're out there.
Right. Have your phones.
With your phones.
Be ready.
Video, basically taking all of this in, which on one level, based on what we're seeing happen nightly, is understandable. But it also, I think, lends credence to me, Justin, and Lori, to the notion that this is, every night feels like a powder keg situation, does it not?
It does.
You end up, like this morning, I'm looking to check, did I miss anything last night? Was there anything like Wednesday night? And you breathe a sigh of relief because it doesn't appear that anything similar took place. And that's what feels untenable and non-sustainable. We had former Governor Arnie Carlson on Bumper to Bumper on The Fan earlier in the week, and he basically said, you have to believe that the president is absolutely capable of doing what he's threatening to do.
Right.
And that, of course, would add, I don't even want to try to calculate where that ratchets things up to. Can we go back to, I want to quote the late, great Ron Rosenbaum, really the creator of this show, when he would say, let's go back to the beginning.
Unbelievable, because I wanted to do the same thing.
And the beginning, at least for me, the beginning is the Stephen Miller order, basically, that we want 3,000 arrests a day. 3,000, we're talking about the ICE move throughout the country.
Right.
3,000 a day. And as Wall Street Journal editorial section pointed out, I think just this morning, Americans dislike it when police have to meet parking ticket quotas, much less arrests for this sort of thing. So is it not inevitable that if you make that order and the folks who are supposed to carry it out believe it, chaos has every possibility of ensuing? You're going to start casting a wide enough net that, well, he looks funny. I don't like his accent.
Right.
Let's start talking to him. And all of this, I think, has contributed to the position we are now in, which feels absolutely frightening and untenable.
The quota 100% is a big problem. We talked about that at the beginning. Take Minneapolis out of it, right?
Right.
Going all the way back to when these deportations started. The other beginning I wanted to go back to is Operation Metro Surge, which started December 1st. Do you remember how many agents were dispatched here at that time?
I'm going to guess 250.
You're high, 100. And some of them might have already been here, and I don't even know if dispatched is the right word.
Right.
We're now approaching, I think, 2,500 is what I heard today. Maybe more are coming, as Lori mentioned. More could come if the Insurrection Act is invoked, and that's the crazy part. And so when people ask, well, why the escalation? And even Tricia McLaughlin today saying, and I think Kristi Noem said this yesterday, well, Minnesota's got a lot of people that they're not giving us to. Like, that's why we have to escalate this thing. And number one, we've learned, speaking to Courtney Godfrey, she did a report earlier in the week that that's not true, that there are some counties where there are some issues, but Minnesota does turn people over to ICE, does let them know when they're going to be released. So that is fuzzy at best, misleading at worst, or lying at worst. And so it's just the escalation of it. I don't think anybody disagrees, Dan, with the fact that we want to get criminals out of the country. Right. That should not be controversial. That should not be polarizing. And I don't think it is.
It might be for some people. It's not for a majority of Americans.
Exactly right, for a majority of Americans. But when you're going to schools, and like we said last week, you're going to Home Depot and Target, and you're going, the story of federal agents eating at a St. Cloud restaurant, having lunch, and then coming back a few hours later to arrest the people that work there. That's not what that's not what we're talking about. That's not what I think people are most interested in. And so that's where I lose, kind of hope in all of it. And Arnie said too, we got to get together. You got to bring a coalition. You got to talk. Do we have any hope that that's going to happen? Like, in the grand scheme of things?
No, but I would still try to do it.
I agree with him totally that that's what you should try to do. But it's disheartening because it doesn't feel like that's possible.
Well, let's put it this way. If one of the people on the other side of the negotiating table, to take it back to the beginning, is Stephen Miller, the answer is probably nowhere.
Right.
But I think there must be some effort to do it. I think what we're all trying to figure out is, how do we get out of this morass?
Exactly right.
What it sounds like is we're not going to get out of this morass anytime soon. It's either going to get the most likely possibility, sadly, is it's going to get worse.
Right.
When nightly you got people nose to nose, right? It only is going to take one person with a weapon to I think, turn this sideways to an entirely other level. But the things we're seeing, okay, on a nightly basis are un-American, dangerous, and do you ever stop? Does this ever happen to you, Justin, where you go, well, 3 weeks ago, I'd have said, I wouldn't even have the imagination to think I'd see the scenery in the United States of America, the scenes that are playing out that are, in some cases, tearing up families that have really nothing to do with what should be wise, very legal effort to try to get quote unquote criminals out of this country.
Right.
And we're so worn down that we're almost having to accept stuff that if we saw it in any other country, we'd say, well, that's a dictator. That's what dictators do.
Right.
That's got nothing to do with lawful, rational approach when it comes to both either the border or, in this case, not even close to the Mexican border, just the idea of getting illegal individuals or undocumented individuals out of this country.
Next up, a group of Minnesota House Republicans are set to introduce articles of impeachment against Governor Walz. They say the governor has engaged in corrupt conduct in office by violating his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the laws of the state. To move forward with impeachment, it would need a majority vote in the House, then move to the Senate. The legislative session here in Minnesota begins about a month from now, February 17th, Dan.
It's a waste of time. For me, and look, I don't think anybody who watches this show or listens to us on the radio would suggest we've been easy on the governor when it comes to the series of scandals that started largely with feeding our future. We're still learning more and more, it seems like, with every report that comes out. But it's a long way from that to impeachment. He's already announced that he's not going to run.
Right.
That should be the victory, if you want to call it that the Republicans should take if they want the victory lap. So I put this under the classification of, go ahead, knock yourselves out if you feel better and you're handing red meat to your base. I don't think it has any real chance to go anywhere, and it's why, for me, it's an utter waste of time.
One analyst called it performative, not substantive. And that's as good as you can put it, right?
Yes.
Because that's what it is. Because even in the same sentence, because of the polarizing times, good luck getting 2/3 of a majority to agree on anything, right?
Yeah.
Let alone something like this. And that's what is frustrating, is we've talked about that a million times on this show and on the radio show. Just mentioned Governor Carlson talking about, well, let's roll up our sleeves, let's get a group together, let's try to figure this out together, how we can actually move forward and work for Minnesota, work for the country, do the job that we're supposed to do. There's so much of this stuff, right? And this is on both sides. Right now we're talking about the Republicans that are drafting this, but there's so many circus sideshow acts that have nothing to do with actually running the state, solving our problems, getting us out of trouble that we're in. And this I would put in that category because, again, he's out of here in 6 months. So what are we doing?
And what have we also learned more broadly? People in the two parties do not talk to each other anymore.
Exactly right.
And again, you could say, well, if the disagreements are fundamental, what good would that do? Well, it might humanize, at least. If you have to look across from somebody over and over again over lunch or whatever it might be, presumably you can occasionally fashion relationships that might help you figure out some form of compromise. Dare I even mention the word?
30
because
seconds.
Historically, that's what we've seen in Minnesota. Historically, that's what we've seen in Washington, D.C. And that whole concept, because the stories are legendary of folks who are diametrically opposed ideologically, Republicans and Democrats, who still found a way to talk to each other, to give themselves a chance to meet, to get something done. But when all that groundwork is not done on the front end, it becomes almost impossible at a time like now to think that might even be among the possibilities to get us out of this.
Every old politician tells us that's how they used to do it, right? And part of the reason, though, is why it can't exist, right? Because of social media, because you can't give any quarter, you can't give an inch, you can't compromise, otherwise it's going to get spun up and you're going to be voted out.
We're back to performance.
Exactly, and that's where it's frustrating and deflating, to use that word for a second time today.
Next up, you mentioned the fraud. 6 Minnesota U.S. attorneys have resigned, including Joe Thompson. Thompson was the lead prosecutor in some of the biggest fraud cases here, including Feeding Our Future. The New York Times is reporting these resignations are coming from Thompson and others after they were being pushed to investigate Renee Good's widow. Dan?
Well, the irony here is the story's changed a couple of times about why they resigned, whether it was in protest about whatever the directives that were coming from the White House or from Washington were. Then it was, well, they were going to leave anyway, and this is a bunch of nonsense, to, oh, yeah, on the case of Joe Thompson, we did dismiss him.
Right.
So they need to get the story straight. I mean, the sad part for me, again, and this I think should be true whether you're on the left side or the right side of the political aisle, is that the professionals who worked in that office got stuff done. In fact, they are most responsible, Andy Lugar and Joe Thompson, for starting this whole process that has resulted in now the Republicans saying we need to impeach the governor.
Right.
They're the ones who did the heavy work to at least expose the fraud, not necessarily to link the governor to it, but to hold people accountable for stealing minimum hundreds of millions, probably well into the billions of dollars, whatever that number is, and it's probably still growing. Another one of the resignations was an individual who helped on doing probably the best job we've had done in years on battling gangs.
Right.
All of that expertise and intellect is now gone from that office. Who wins in that under those conditions? Neither Republicans nor Democrats win.
Minnesota got worse. Minnesota loses. Minnesota got worse this week, in my opinion, and I think with yours as well. And a lot of people that
they're just professional. That's
yes,
all they are.
That had the job before.
Left, some of them Republicans, some of them Democrats.
One of the former U.S. attorneys called it the worst day he's ever experienced in basically in the legal profession. He called it one of the darkest days ever that he has seen in the legal profession. So who does win in the end of it? Certainly not the state of Minnesota. What Lugar did with the RICO Act to help clean up the streets. You talk to people that are there, that work downtown, live downtown, how that changed everything. Thompson was a part of that. You mentioned the other attorney that was part of that as well. And he was all over the fraud stuff. He has not missed much on the fraud stuff, and that's the unfortunate part, is we as a state got worse.
Football for the Vikings this weekend, but still what I say, a lot of nuggets to cover, a lot of Vikings nuggets. The team emphasizing a competitive quarterback competition, fan favorite Adam Thielen, Minnesota's own, hanging up his cleats. And then on a serious note, Jordan Addison arrested for trespassing in Florida. More legal trouble for the third-year receiver, Dan.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I don't think it should be the main thing we talk about quite yet. But, you know, it's interesting. On the radio show on KFAN, we had the Timberwolves lead assistant coach Micah Nori on earlier in the week. And I was asking about a very promising young point guard named Rob Dillingham on the team who has tended to struggle and now is barely playing. And he says, you know, the hard part for him is if we were not a good team, we could sort of just throw him out there.
For sure.
And accept the mistakes and just allow him to learn the hard way because there wouldn't be as much to lose. And as he said it, the light bulb went off in my head, and I said, he has crystallized, without even attempting to, the J.J. McCarthy sticky wicket for the Vikings last year. Because the Vikings came off a 14-3 season. It was hard just accept that, hey, with any young quarterback, you're going to get the ups and downs that J.J. McCarthy certainly, I think, exhibited and revealed. That, you could say, is almost unfair to him. But again, if the Vikings were supposed to be terrible last year, then you just play them and you go okay, we're not going anywhere. The Vikings intended to go someplace, and that's what made it so hard to just suffer the slings and arrows and say, just be patient, everything's going to be fine. Meantime, it's pretty clear if you have legitimate quarterbacking last year, the Vikings we're probably talking about them playing at least the first weekend, maybe even the second weekend as well.
Well, we talked about that pressure leading up to the season.
We did.
Didn't we?
We warned people.
We were on top of that as saying this team is built to go places. They think they're going places, and they're putting a lot on the quarterback to get there.
Yep.
It is crazy how fast things do change, though, for J.J. McCarthy, because after the KOC and Kwesi press conference this week where they used the very inspiring phrase competitive quarterback room, right? Like, that's what we're trying to build next year. That's what you want to hear when you use the 10th overall pick to draft a guy that you thought was going to be your franchise guy. You want to hear after his first year as a starter where, again, he couldn't stay healthy the whole year, we're going to build a competitive quarterback
30
situation.
seconds.
I'm not sure that inspires a bunch of confidence. You go back to when he hurt his meniscus his rookie season and the things that KOC said then before they went to the joint practices in Cleveland, and I did. He basically said, long future, no doubts about what he's going to be able to do for this franchise. Everything we thought we drafted, I've already seen. I can't wait for the future with it. And now it's competitive quarterback situation.
Which, by the way, sounds good, except that you got to, who is the quarterback that you can bring in who can actually compete with him with a chance to actually win the job? Because if you're not going to give any guarantee that it's a wide open job, then you're going to actually lose out on some of the best candidates.
Enough said.
And which team with a good quarterback wants a competitive quarterback situation?
Right.
We got to keep moving.
Congrats, Adam Thielen, by the way. Heck of a story.
And a Jordan Addison for continued immaturity at best.
Next up, big divisional weekend in the NFL. In the AFC, it feels like a flashback to 10 years ago. Everyone's talking about 2016, right? With the Patriots and Broncos hosting playoff games in the NFC, ex-Vikings, Sam Darnold getting ready for the Niners. And then your guys, Dan, were you worried about them last weekend? The Bears look to continue their miracle run in what will be a very cold one in Chicago.
I could totally written them off at halftime. They have become the best comeback team in recent memory. I think the cautionary tale for the Vikings is now that Ben Johnson in his first year won a playoff game. Yeah. There's only one coach in this division that does not have a single playoff victory.
That hurts. Say it.
It's just the truth. It's our guy KOC. Yep. And I think what the Bears are indicating is they're here to stay. I'm not saying they're going to Super Bowls every year, but they're a factor in a way that they haven't been for years. The Lions are still good. The Packers, I don't think are going away. So this is going to be a very challenging division, and that's part of what the Vikings are going to have to face.
Lori mentioned Sam Darnold. He says he's good to go, even though now an oblique injury has popped up. He's had a really good season. There he is. There's Sammy Darnold right there. He's got the Niners, division rival, at home. I'm fascinated by that game. The Niners don't care that they have 52 guys injured every single season, right? Kyle Shanahan just figures it out. And I'll say go Josh Allen, too, if we're doing the playoff picture thing. Number one, because you know how I feel about Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. And I think I can speak for all Minnesotans. I think we can have one Minnesota on. We'd love to see Sean Payton lose every game for the rest of his life because of Bounty Gate and because it just doesn't seem like he's a good dude at all, which doesn't make him a bad person, although I guess it does. And is this Josh Allen's time, right? Because on the AFC side, there's no Patrick Mahomes. There's no Travis Kelce. There's no big, bad Kansas City Chiefs or even Tom Brady going back even further with the New England Patriots. So I know it's a tough ask to go into Denver and win as a 6th seed, I think Buffalo is, but he's got to be feeling like this is his moment, right, to get finally to the Super Bowl.
It's a great opportunity for him, even though, like you said, it's on the road, because I think Denver has been good all year, but people still don't quite trust them. So I think he's got a great chance to advance.
New year, new Wolves. The team is 6-1 since the calendar turned 2026. That includes a big comeback win against the Spurs and a blowout of the Bucks. They're in Houston tonight, but they'll be without Anthony Edwards again. He's missing his second straight game with after the Bucks game, right? And without Gobert, with a right foot injury. But interesting note, he did seem to be good in practice, Justin.
Yeah, it's an interesting injury or thing that he's dealing with, where I think they're just trying to get him a couple of extra days of rest. I was actually looking forward to it. I know Houston, their point guard Van Fleet, got injured right out of the gate, but that's where Kevin Durant is. They started the season hot. I was looking forward to seeing Anthony go up against his buddy KD. We're not going to see that. They are playing great since the debacle in Atlanta, and we'd already seen signs of it last week. We talked about it last week, that since the New Year's Eve game, which was just a complete disaster on pretty much every level, they've played pretty consistently well, and Edwards has been fantastic. And it's an interesting year because it hasn't, I don't think, gone according to their plan. They don't have much of a bench right now, right? And I think the idea was they were going to, with a Terrence Shannon or a Jalen Clark, maybe Dillingham, who knows. Bones Highland has been a nice shot in the arm. We'll see if that can be sustained. He's a fan favorite now at this point as well. But they have found a way where all their starters are playing well. Anthony's playing great. Dante DiVincenzo's playing great. Obviously, Randall the other night played well, had great defense on Wembanyama Sunday night at Target Center. So it's since that Atlanta game, they've been locked in. The question with this team has always been, how long is it going to go? How long will they stay locked in? Will they have a couple more ebbs and flows? Because they're in the top 4 in a very loaded Western Conference right now, and that stuff's going to be important in about 3 months when the playoffs start.
Well, here's, do you remember the Karl Anthony Towns trade?
I do.
We traded the guy who was viewed by everybody, including me, as the best player in that deal.
He was.
To New York.
Yep.
In exchange, we get Julius Randle and DiVincenzo, right?
Yes.
You can make a very solid argument that so far this season, Julius Randle is now the best player in that deal.
Yeah.
He is out shooting Cat in terms of percentage. He is out assisting him. And quite frankly, he's not getting ripped by his own coach the way Cat has been on consecutive days. So Randle playing great, I think, has been a big part of this. Can he sustain it?
It is lightning round time. The Wild continued their homestand against the Jets, but they also continued their losing streak. Next up, the Sabres in Buffalo. We have about 2.5 weeks of play until the NHL break for the Olympics. What do they need to get done right now, Dan?
Well, the goaltending has gone south a little bit. I'm a big believer in the cliche that there's always ups and downs. The question is how quickly you end the down and when you start showing signs of recovery, right? And I would say let's get to it, because for a while the excuse was we had this long road trip, we're tired, we come back home, there's always a letdown. Well, we've had too many games now, I think, where we can use that as an excuse. And I thought the kid goalie, Walz, that was first time it looked to me like, he's hit his first significant bump.
Great Wall of St. Paul, 2-3-2, almost 4 goals against his last 7 games.
Justin, this one's for you. It's been up in the air for the last few weeks, but now we know Gopher football former quarterback Coy Parrish is leaving for Oregon from Minnesota. He'll be have 2 years left of eligibility.
I think we said it last week or 2 weeks ago when John Krasinski was here. Coy is one that has the ability to name his price and name his place, and I'm sure standing at Autzen Stadium last fall when the Gophers were taking on Oregon, I'm sure that was appealing to him. So I wonder if he'll play strictly defense there, if they'll let him do offense there as well, like the Gophers were trying to do here. But we knew he was probably going to a blue blood, and they don't get much bluer than Oregon.
What's interesting to me is he did not have, as you well know better than I, a very good sophomore season.
No.
He was much better as a freshman. I'm not saying good riddance.
And finally,
but he did not play particularly well.
It's a trend that I didn't quite understand at first on social media, going back to 2016.
Oh, boy.
So I was trying to find a photo of us three. People are trying to look back at 2016.
Look at that.
Look at us. We look so young.
We do look young.
We were young.
Oh, my goodness.
And I guess people are, a few reasons, but like it's more like simpler times, maybe kind of that sweet spot, right? Like,
I think
several
I still have
years
that
post
shirt.
9/11 and the economy crush, but then before, like, what's happening now?
What do you think? Did you figure out what we were talking about at that moment?
LeBron's
in time?
success, big win on the court.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
We look happy.
Yeah, we look pretty.
You look like you're having a great time.
We don't look as
2016.
worn down as we look now.
Enough said.
That's very true.
That was a nice shirt, though. Banana Republic, I remember. That was a nice shirt.
That's still around.
That's got a
that
Banana
was one of my
Republic
good
written
ones.
all over
That was
it,
one of my TV shirts.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
only
Back
wore
in the
that
day.
in here. Yeah.
Then Lori said, you got to start wearing coats.
I know. You
I
gotta
did.
Look good.
Yeah, you haven't worn short sleeves since, Dan.
Yeah, you're pretty much right.